Hi everybody and welcome to this video as part of the BK Course Guides series, where we are aiming the content here at those in tour play, either stepping up to a new tour or having to learn a new course as part of tour reshuffles and course rotations within the game. As with our tournament walkthroughs, we are going to give you overviews of all of the holes, but with a slightly different focus here because we will be looking at strategy and general tour play with regard to the course, and this time we are looking at Greenock Point, and we'll also be giving you my thoughts on how close you really need to be aiming to get to the pin in the shootouts as well. These will be general overviews, so are not limited to one particular tour or tee, giving you my thoughts for all three tees. And whilst it's not possible obviously to give you exact spins and adjustments for all clubs, all tees and all wind conditions, it's my intention to give you a good overview of some routes and options you've got available in more general wind directions. We will be doing them in par groupings, so we start with the par 4s, then we'll go on to the par 5s and then finish up with the shootouts. Timestamps for the holes will be in the video description down below. Before we get started, please do hit thumbs up on the video if you're enjoying the content, and if you're new here, it would be great if you could subscribe to the channel and get the bell button enabled so you get notified when we upload new content. Finally, there will be a playlist available on the channel homepage with all of the course guides available in the game. So please do check that out if there's some other courses that you need help with. Alright then, let's get started, beginning with the par 4s. Okay, this first par 4 is actually one of the redesigned holes. We have had older versions of Greenock Point. We're obviously going to give you the newest version here, which does crop up in the game usually. And it's the white line that is the most common route here. Now, if you've got loads of topspin on your driver, this is a very, very good route to play. And depending what the wind is doing here is going to determine where you want your second bounce. Because you want to firstly bounce where the blue cross is in the middle of the overview. Second bounce on that next little piece of fairway there before the bunkers, and then over towards the green. And obviously that topspin is then going to roll you towards the green for hopefully a very, very straightforward wedge, or even a putt if you get lucky. So in any form of tailwind, even if it's tail crosswind, that is the way to go. Black line on the right, pretty good if you don't have a driver with a great amount of topspin. You can play that route as well, and I like that route in any form of headwind as well, because then obviously if you're going the white line with headwind, it is going to compress the ball guide and you may well not be able to execute the double bounce and end up in the sand. So playing on the right with obviously as much topspin as you can to get as far down as possible. Both of those routes do play 10% on the drive for me, and if you are going down the route of the black arrows, second shot there is going to be with your short iron, and I would play that 20%. It is slightly more downhill if you get down the fairway on the right. The blue line obviously on the left, a much more aggressive route which is going to suit higher drivers and obviously higher powered balls, so it all depends what you want to use. May not really be possible for the lower tours, but as you get up into the higher tours in the game, you will see people play more aggressively. Either way, it is a very drivable green in Greenock Point, and you will really need to be trying to get an eagle here if at all possible. Same with this par 4 really. This is considered, especially in tailwind, more of a par 3. In tournaments, of course, it is a must-eagle, and that does extend to tour play as well, especially if you're going to see this in the middle of the tours up to the higher end tours. Players will, at that level, be getting an eagle on this more often than not. White arrow is the best route, and we do need to be getting to green if we have any form of tailwind or even crosswind with a hint of tailwind. You can go aggressive in level crosswind as well. However, any form of headwind, I would not be going this route here. And it's of course bouncing on the right-hand fairway pad, 15% elevation here, in which case, depending on your driver, you may need to be using a power 3 ball. This is one I would be tempted to, if you've got the choice between power 1 and power 3, is worth investing in a power 3 ball just to make sure you get to the green in one, because like I said, most of your opponents, especially in the higher end of the game, will be getting an eagle here. So it's one of those you're going to have to keep up and go to shootout if possible. And you will, on the right arrows, be bouncing over with topspin, and you want your second bounce to be in the rough and then that will then roll out to the green, probably leaving you a very, very simple putt. If we do get headwind, we're going to have to bounce over on the left, and that's the light blue arrows. Again, this drive plays 15%, and it's up to you, of course, what driver you use. I do like the quarterback or the rock here for the accuracy in the ball guide. You won't need much topspin at all. 2 bars at best will be fine. But obviously, if you do have severe headwind, you may not be able to adjust. So you may need to go with a driver with more distance to be able to adjust into headwind. Second shot on the blue line is going to play you with a short iron at 15%. But again, this is a very, very makeable short iron. You may want to add more elevation if we have stronger crosswind. But either way, eagle is the focus on this hole. In complete contrast to the other 2 par 4s we've just looked at, this one, an eagle, is very, very unlikely indeed. It's tricky to get an eagle on this hole, really. If we do have tailwind and you want to go with slightly higher powered ball and you've got a lot of topspin on your driver and some good power, then you can play aggressively on the right, and that's along the black arrows there. Bouncing just to the right of the fairway bunker, I would suggest in tailwind you adjust 10% extra, push back up to max, and then you still may need to go with some overpower to clear the rough. However, I would play aggressively there and go for it. If all works out well, you're going to be left with a short iron or a wedge. General elevation for the second shot, minus 20%. It does play uphill there. The green is a little bit tricky down to the pin there, so you are going to have to play with backspin, and there's not really a lot of decent landing positions to find. However, if you do get the wind, just go for it. I think you do have an outside chance of an eagle, and you will need to play aggressively if you get this hole. If you don't have the clubs or the balls for it, then the left-hand side is for you, and that's the kind of more general reserved route. You've still got to need some topspin, but not as much, really. You want to bounce where the blue cross is, again, 10% on the drive, with some side spin to the right, and roll onto the next piece of fairway. Either bounce directly over there with your second bounce, or, in worst case scenario, clip the rough and roll out. With this shot, I'd rather be too long than too short. If you don't clear it, chances are you're going to have a very difficult Nirvana shot to get to the green. However, if you do roll long, obviously you're going to be much, much nearer to the green. Assuming all goes to plan on that route, you're going to be left with a long iron if you do land on that fairway pad. Backspin is very good here, so providing you don't need, with the shootouts, long iron with anything else that may prevent you from using a long iron with the backspin, then this is a really good option here. So if you can play with the Saturn, go with that one. Have a bag with the Saturn in it for this tour if you have it. If not, obviously you're going to have to bounce up a little bit before the green and roll on. But once again, there are some tricky undulations on the green here, and it will take a bit of getting used to. But it's a very fun hole, not a guaranteed eagle, but a good option there, left or right side, depending what the wind's doing. If you are enjoying this guide, be sure to check out the channel homepage on YouTube or visiting bkgolfclash.com, where you'll find lots of other Golf Clash content, including general walkthroughs for all tournaments in the game, main tournaments, major tournaments, and also 9-hole cups. Now onto the par 5s, this one of the redesigned ones, hence the overview being a bit brighter. 10% on the drive, that one kind of remains unchanged, but you want to be just bouncing lower right corner of that second piece of fairway with a few bars of topspin and a little bit of side spin to the right to get you down to where the tip of that arrow is. Be mindful though, if you do have wind from right to left, you will be adjusting with trees in your way, so you may need to use some right curl as well. 10% on the drive, I would recommend a power 3 ball for this, purely because the second shot is a lot longer than it used to be. Now, the old version, of course, used to play uphill with a rough bump, but now it's much longer and it is downhill. So, plus 20% on the second shot, and it is going to be with a wood club. And of course, you've got the old dilemma again, depending what clubs you have and what else is in the tour, including shootouts as well, of what wood club you want to play with. Distance is good here, bearing in mind obviously with tour play the winds are random, so you may well have to adapt a little bit on the second shot, and that's why I've got 2 crosses here. There's a bounce over, which is the white cross. Obviously you will need some topspin to get over there and to roll onto the green. Alternatively, if you do have the club for it, you can play a rough bump as well, which is where the red cross is, but obviously you do need that distance on your drive. 20% second shot, 10% on the drive though. Not too tricky here. As long as you get onto the short grass, you will be fine. Obviously, with the length of this hole, if you do find rough on your drive, you are going to fight to get to the green in 2. Now for this hole here, I would suggest the white line primarily if you are playing from the front tee, as most likely you won't have a driver with the curl to play the other route. So the white line is the traditional route, 20% extra on the drive. You're bouncing on that small piece of fairway with some topspin and right spin to take you down between the fairway bunker and the bunker on the left. So you will need side spin 2 here is preferable. If you don't have any of those, or you want to be a little cheaper on the ball, then obviously you will need to add some right curl as well. Be mindful though, got to be accurate here. If you do clip the rough on the drive in the landing position, or when you've rolled out, bounced over and rolled into the sand or the rough, you've got a long way to go, so you won't reach the green in 2. Assuming you've found the fairway though, you've got a wood club second shot, and that's going to be bouncing over where the blue cross is, with some topspin and right spin, and then clearing the rough, second bounce near the green and rolling down. 0% there. But be warned, as you can see on the left hand side of that second white arrow, there are some trees, so if you have left to right wind, you will be adjusting with the trees in your way. So I would counter that with a little bit of curl to take those out of the equation. The black line is one we've played more aggressively, and you will need curl on your driver, so this is more recommended for middle and rear tee. But it's the same elevation. I would play this 20%. Obviously you're going to need left curl, you're going to need top spin and left spin as well. Assuming all goes well there, you will have either 2 options here. There is a rough bump to the green, but there's also some fairway there just before the tip of the black arrow. Again, I'd be playing this 0%, but it's a very interesting par 5 here, and hopefully you'll do well. Albatross, yeah, tough to get an albatross, but again, with the par 5s, and especially some of these holes on Greenoch Point, if you can't get the drop, just play sensible golf and go to shootout. Final par 5 now here, and again this one that has been redesigned a couple of times, and depending what version they've got in the tour, you're going to just have to be a bit careful here, especially on the right hand side, because there have been some different versions of this depending whether it's the snowy version or the traditional one. We're going to look at the traditional one here. Let's start with the left hand side though, which is the standard way, as it were, and definitely for front tee as well for lower clubs, and that is 20% on the drive. I would put your driver from front tee in mid distance rather than max. It's a little bit easier to adjust and control. The key here is not to go too far. Obviously you will need some top spin, you will need a little bit of side spin to the right as well, but there's 2 places you can aim for, and we're going to look at the second arrows now. You go for the slightly longer drive, that will leave you with the white route for the second shot, and that will be 0%, but you've got to play with a lot of right curl, kind of 1 ball at least outside the adjustment ring to the right. 2 to 4 bars of topspin and also side spin to the right, and you want to catch the top left corner of the green, and the ball will then funnel down towards the pin. Difficult to get an albatross, but it's a safe route to the green. Even if you're slightly short, you've got a downhill wedge. If you've got a wedge with ball guide, it does make it easier, but the aim is, as long as you just clear the fringe, the ball will roll down very, very nicely. If you want to play a shorter drive, you've then got the blue arrow to the green. However, in tour play, when you don't really know what the wind direction is going to be for the second shot, because it will vary from your drive, this is a risky one. And if you get a difficult wind angle, as in crosswind, going to make you adjust in or out of the trees, you may not have a clear line. So I would be tempted to hedge your bets. Go for the longer drive, as it's a slightly safer second shot. You do have the clubs for it, and this is a route we play in tournaments from second and third tee. The right hand side is bouncing over with topspin, second bounce in the rough and rolling out to that piece of fairway there beyond the water. There is a line, although it's difficult to see with the trees here. You can actually get a long iron rough bump or standard shot up to the green if you want to play aggressively. So the choice is yours there, depends what you've got in your golf bag and what balls you want to use. But 20% on the drive, 0% second shot. The shootouts then, and some really interesting ones here, and this is why I like Greenoch Point. You've got a mixture of holes really, and some good options to choose from. The bounce over is going to be the most common route. That's the white line, especially from front tee for those players that won't be confident with the rough bump. So that is of course bouncing over the bunker plate, 10% extra. Wood club with good ball guide is preferable if you have it, of course. The black line, if you're feeling confident, and definitely for second tee, is very good. However, of course, in tour play, you may not, of course, be playing with the quarterback as you would with tournaments. So you do have to go with the risk of going with a less accurate driver. But it's still a possible shot. 10% elevation for the rough bump. You will need some side spin to the left. And it is aiming where the red cross is, centre of the rough. And then obviously you're going to try and either get a hole in one or at least very close. But like I say, you do need to know your adjustments for that. So it's going to be one, you've got to decide what your preferred play style is. And of course, if your opponent goes first in the shootout, you'll know what you've got to beat. Blue line on the left really for third tee. And that's obviously playing aggressively with a lot of backspin bouncing directly before the green with some right curl and right spin as well. 10% general rule for all tees, and with this one, my guide in terms of how to get the most wins on this one. If you're playing the bounce over, I'd say within 3 yards. If you are playing the rough bump though, players are going to be a little bit more dialed in, and really you're going to need to be within 2 yards to have a decent chance of winning if you're playing the rough bump. Now this is one of the recently redesigned holes, and it's much less of a funnel here. In fact, not really a funnel at all, like the old one. 20% general elevation here, and you've got 2 routes to choose from, and for me it's 50-50 which one you want to go with. Both are decent routes, to be honest. I would be tempted in winds from left to right to use the white line just because it's along the direction of the shot, and you're not going to be adjusting with the trees in your way. And in similar fashion, if you've got wind from right to left, I would then obviously go with the black route, because once again, you're adjusting in the clear and you're not having to worry about the trees or the sand. Going to be a wood club for front tee and obviously second tee as well, and driver for the third tee. So it's really up to you, but I would be bouncing before the bunker on the left-hand side, obviously clearing the bunker and then rolling out onto the green. You've got more of a distance to the pin there in terms of the rollout. The right side is a little bit more direct. Obviously, anything with good ball guide like the sniper is super useful here. You will need a little bit of side spin as well. So the choice is yours here. It's definitely one of the less played holes in terms of experienced tour players, because this is one of the redesigned routes. So you're going to have to see what the wind's doing as to which side you play from on this hole. In terms of distance from the pin, I would say general rule of getting within 3 yards should be pretty good result. And we're going to finish with what is known as the NASCAR, because really there is only one way to play this hole, and that is going on the left hand side there, bouncing, taking the slope around to the top left corner of the green, and then the ball will fall very nicely. There's a very nice line to the pin. Now again, there's 2 versions of this. Let's assume you're playing the non-snowy version. You do have some shadows there, which is good to reference your landing position, but you want to be bouncing in line with those shadows. 20% elevation from all tees for me. You will need topspin, you will need a couple of bars of side spin to the right, and you will need to vary your curl. I always play with some right curl on this one. If the wind is left to right, you will not need as much. I would say, outside of the ball, touching the outside of the adjustment ring to the right. However, if the wind is right to left, it's going to go against the line of the shot. I would go with at least half a ball of curl to the right. This is known as a lottery shootout. And okay, yes, we can still be dialed in and get very close to the pin. However, it's one of those, you will think you've played a good shot. You may end up with 0.2 yards away from the pin and hit perfect with a very good setup. Your opponent will then most likely shoot with not really much idea what they're doing, hit a massive great ball and end up with a hole-in-one. Be prepared, that does happen on this hole, so okay, like I say, you can be prepared. It is a little bit of a lottery shot though, in terms of your opponent as well. You've got to get a very, very nice roll here, and it's all about that line because you want to enter the green on the top left. So experience will teach you here how much spin you need, but there's not a lot you can do wrong unless you really, really overshoot the green on this one. In terms of where you need to be to win, really you need to be within 1 yard on this. Now it does sound bad, but it actually isn't that bad once you've played this hole, because it does funnel down very, very nicely. But you will see a fair few hole-in-ones on this one as well. Thank you very much for watching this course guide video. If you have found it useful, please do share amongst your friends in the game, and don't forget to check out the rest of the course guides in the playlist. If you do have any questions whatsoever, please do join us on Facebook in our group BK Golf Clash. We have thousands of members there. Link is in the video description down below. Friendly place where players of the game of all skill levels can interact, help each other out and ask questions. So you can ask away there. No question will be considered too trivial. Wonderful people there will be happy to help out. Thank you once again for watching. See you all very soon. Bye for now.